We've been talking a lot about migration in recent weeks, and it was particularly highlighted by the Marches for Australia, where everyday Aussies expressed their concerns about mass migration. Now, more than 1.1 million migrants have come into this country since Labor was elected, and Big Australia keeps getting bigger. March this year saw massive immigration numbers. Net overseas migration was 110,000, well above recent averages. The pressure on infrastructure and housing is being felt. Today we found out that property prices have risen faster than rents over the past 16 years, especially in locations where not enough new homes have been supplied to the market. And Labor has already been warned it won't even come close to reaching its housing targets. So where are we going to put all these people? Joining me now to discuss this is Judo Bank's Chief Economist, Warren Hogan. Warren, good to catch up. Thank you for joining me. We got the official population data last week, and I think we've got that chart now. Population growth is at 1.6% after a very big surge. Why is this? Take us through it.
Yeah, good evening, Danica. Look, we do have the latest official statistics, and they show that the annual rate of growth at 1.6 is looking like it's back to normal. That is the average of the last 20 odd years. But the way we've got here, of course, is what we did out of the pandemic when we shut the borders, and our population ended up being about 600,000 less than otherwise because we didn't have any migration for a couple of years. The coalition decided just to return to pre-pandemic normal immigration numbers. That is about 235 a year. But when they lost government and the Labor Party got in, they decided to play catch up. That is, not just to go back to normal immigration numbers, but to catch up the lost 600,000. Hence the surge and hence the volatility we've seen in our population growth in the last 4 years. Big question now is, though, the immigration rates and the population growth seems to be back to a normal level. What's next? And we know that the government is projecting immigration of something like what we used to see, around 250,000 a year. And of course, the RBA's latest update gives us population growth slowing from the current 1.6 down to about 1.3 over the next 2 years. But that all remains to be seen, given that strong number in March.
Well, look, let's talk about this, because what are Labor's plans for immigration from here? Is this a new normal? You said it's at 1.6%. What are their current projections?
We've got immigration, which over the past year was up around 315,000, expected to come down a little bit, but the growth rate is going to slow. And the overall population growth is going to start to come down towards about 1.3%. So this idea that we've got through this period of catch-up is over, and now we should expect to see more moderate immigration numbers and population growth over the next few years. The problem is the March quarter numbers, they actually, despite the annual rate continuing to fall, they were actually quite high and they were quite strong. And they're pointing to a pickup in population growth and immigration numbers over the course of this year. So this really raises the question about how much control does our government actually have on immigration numbers as opposed to the kind of immigration programs and the different visa types that we have out there.
Well, what would be the answer to that? Does Labor actually control the numbers? Because it has picked up again, as I mentioned in my introduction, in the March quarter, 110,000 people.
Yeah, well, I think the system is really, and I think the Treasurer a few years ago said this, is a demand-driven system. So the answer is no. They don't actually control numbers. They don't have targets via each program as such. And of course, Australia, it is pretty clear from that chart, is an attractive place to come to. And so we've got these challenges that high population growth, which of course is in this country driven by immigration, is creating for everyday Australians through housing shortages, through the shortage of broader infrastructure, congestion, the pressure on our health system. And of course, in my view, this surge has been misguided because it's highlighted just how much pressure is brought to bear, but risks the broader community support for our immigration culture and the overall strategy of immigration, which has been the foundation for this country for the last 50 years, and I think is an important part of our future.
Well, look, I agree, but I think half the battle right now is that there is such an unwillingness to even have a debate over immigration because, it's racist. People say it's xenophobic. Well, it's not. We have to have these conversations because, as we've just gone through, the data here is so important. Labor can't even reach its housing targets as it is. Infrastructure is under pressure, and this is why we need to have these conversations. But Warren, I want to ask you, what are the economic implications now of all of this?
Yeah, and look, it is critical because there's good and there's bad, and of course, the new economy that we are now in after the pandemic is one characterized by this retirement of the baby boom generation and a persistence of labour shortages. Now, of course, that makes immigration look like an obvious sort of policy to try and deal with that issue. But of course, you may bring people in to fill jobs that are needed to be done, but then they bring demand with them and they need a house and they need health systems and road systems. And of course, that doesn't fix the problem in the domestic economy. So we are going to see, I think, increasing economic pressure because we're in a capacity constrained economy. That is, we don't have enough infrastructure, we don't have enough hospitals, we don't have enough houses, that it turns into a social and then political problem because it affects the well-being and the lives of everyday Australians. So my advice is we really need a period of sub-trend or lower immigration to give our economy a chance to catch up with these population numbers, because it sounds good that we caught up the population we lost in the pandemic, but did we keep up with the infrastructure? And I'd say the answer to that is probably not, particularly in relation to housing.
No, and we're all feeling it out there, everyday Aussies. Everyone knows it's getting tighter and harder out there. Warren Hogan, thank you very much for joining me on the show this evening. Really appreciate it.